Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, John Nye, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast presented by Omaha Steaks. Josh All with you today, and I've got a really special guest on this episode. Devonta Travis joins. This is a guy that has gone back with the Dogs Podcast for many years, actually. So we used to get into the YouTube comments and stuff with Devonta. I mean, a lot of times in the comments on YouTube is people either saying, yeah, go Browns, they're awesome, or it's just people in there saying, hey, you guys suck, you're the worst podcast ever. And then there was Devonta in there just always just spitting all kinds of knowledge about football and sports and the Browns. And it was like, man, this guy is very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. And that relationship just progressed into now he's part of our Patreon. He was in our Dog Pack Fantasy Leagues this year. We had a ton of fun. And now he's joining the show for the first time to talk about something very interesting. So we'll kind of get into your quick story, Devonta, your sports story, your fandom and all that kind of stuff. But the main topic of today's show, for everybody tuning in at the beginning here, we want to talk about Joe Flacco and this incredible fire run that he's on right now. And one of the most comparable situations that we can think of in recent memory to what's going on with the Browns right now was when Nick Foles took over for the injured Carson Wentz in Philadelphia in that, what was it, 2017-2018 season, correct?
2017, 2018, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and, led them to a Super Bowl victory. So want to look at that team, that situation, and Nick Foles and what he did for the Eagles compared to what Joe Flacco is doing for this team in Cleveland right now. Before we dive into it, though, make sure you guys check us out on the socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you want more Dogs podcast content, join thedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member like Devonta did. So,
oh, yeah.
That's right, man. So let's dive into, first, let's just kind of get to know you a little better and a little bit more about you.
If anybody's seen the previous podcast live where it was the Jets and the Browns, I was the one in there said, Devonta, 2-6. I am also a Eagles fan. I will tell you that story, okay, because it's pretty funny. But not born and raised in Ohio, but born in Virginia. Moved back to Ohio where my family was from when I was about 5. Been in the area since. Football was my second favorite sport. My first was actually NASCAR.
Oh.
You could debate me if that's a sport all you want to. It's more than just turning left and crashing into some cars. It's pretty intricate. But football for me has always been fun. My first real Halloween I remember dressing up as Michael Vick. Didn't have any of the matching stuff. Had a black and yellow football helmet, some hockey shoulder pads, had the white Mike Vick jersey. So that's really my first football memory. Doing that, but ultimately, I've watched the Cleveland Browns, like I said in the voicemail, my whole life. Up here in Northeast Ohio, 0-16. Like I ran through all the quarterbacks, Kelly Holcomb, Charlie Fry, who I actually went to school with a younger cousin of his when I was in 3rd grade.
Oh, cool.
3rd and 4th grade. So I've always watched the Browns, coming out of church on Sunday, driving home, ESPN 850, Jim Donovan, listening to the call, going home and watching the game, whether win, lose, or draw, on the TV, like, yep, it's going to be another long one. But just to get into a little bit of my football background, my mother, who grew up in Cleveland, her and my grandfather used to always watch football. That was his favorite thing. He actually knew Jim Brown personally because he was a police chief and police detective in Cleveland for years. So he knew Jim Brown personally, and he would watch him. He was the drive, the fumble, all of it. He was there for. So they had that connection. My mother taught me how to love the game. Interestingly enough, she's a Patriots fan, more so a Tom Brady fan. So every year, of course, when they would go to the Super Bowl, it was a thing for her and I to watch the Super Bowl, make some nachos, make some food, and just enjoy it. And I never picked the Patriots. The uniforms were just ugly to me. Never picked them. Just something as a little kid, the uniform didn't look right. But I picked the Eagles the year they went in 2004. If anybody remembers, that's the year that they beat Michael Vick in the NFC Championship game. I remember that, because Philly always played Michael Vick tough. Jeremiah Trotter, Brian Dawkins, all those guys to control him in the pocket. And he wasn't the passer that he later became. But I also like Brian Dawkins, Vincent, Jeremiah Trotter, Donovan McNabb, but I like T.O. I like T.O. as a wide receiver. So picking the Eagles that time was very easy, very simple. Of course, we all know what happened in 2010 when Michael Vick went to the Eagles, came back, and won NFL Comeback Player of the Year, did everything he did. And so since then, I've stuck with Philly, really since about 2009. But before then, I would always watch the Browns. Braylon Edwards, Derek Anderson, Jamal Lewis, Dennis Northcutt, that whole team. I believe Kellen Winslow was on the 2017, if I'm not mistaken, when he had Derek Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I remember that whole team and watching them. And when Michael Vick went to the Eagles, I was like, hey, this is my team. I'm riding for him. And because I grew up in the Patriots household with my mother, I never got accustomed to seeing losers. So, of course, as a kid, oh, you like the Browns? Ha, 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 they're losing. The jokes, here, that, the third. But once I had watched the Eagles, I always paid attention to the Browns, paid attention to what they did in the draft, free agency, head coaches, everything. So I've watched all year, and it really wasn't until about 2 years ago where I really was like, okay, I'm actually a Browns fan. All the qualifications, I get irritated when they lose. I crack the jokes when they would lose, but I'll be happy when they would win as well. So, I kind of always had that. I would personally call it a little love-hate.
Oh, well, then you're definitely a Browns fan. Yep.
Yeah, between the Browns and the Eagles. So
real quick, it's funny you say the love-hate thing is finding out, hey, maybe I am a true Browns fan. If you've never watched a Browns fan or a Browns game and said, that's it, I'm done watching this team. What time do they play next week? In the same sentence, then you're definitely not a Browns fan, because that's happened to every single one of us. I had years and years and years where every Sunday it was, I can't watch this crap anymore. I'm not watching this team. I'm done. Mm-hmm. And then anybody I was watching with was like, yeah, these guys suck. What time you want to get together next week for the games? Like, well, all right, yeah. 12:30?
Yep. It's been I've literally sat and watched, I believe it was Baltimore, Cleveland, and this is before Baker Mayfield. I believe it was a Monday night game. Cleveland lined up for a field goal, I want to say at the 30 or the 40. And Baltimore blocks it, takes it back for the touchdown, ends the game. It's like, well, that's the most Cleveland Browns thing ever. And even now when we're in the Discord or we're talking, like, please don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up. We all remember the Jets game last year where it's like, oh, it's in the bag. It's good. Yeah. Of course, it's the Buckeye, Garrett Wilson, who breaks our heart. Yeah, you know what? I'm not a fan of you right now, but I'm still a fan of you. But, we've all been there of the, man, it's almost there. It's they have it, then they lose it. Yeah. Or it's like, okay, you can win this, and then a penalty or a turnover. So, I've been there for all of it. Deshaun Kaiser, Johnny Manziel, Brady Quinn, all the different guys we've had throughout the years. Yeah. I've literally been there for all of it. And now seeing this team, like I said in the voicemail, team, it's amazing to see now.
Absolutely. I mean, you're totally right, because any Browns fan will tell you for decades it was the Browns will find any and every way to lose a game. I mean, anything, like you said, even just that Jets game last year, we had it in the bag and we still found a way to lose it. And that has always been the theme. But this year, and I think you mentioned this earlier, feels like a turning point for this franchise. It's been building. I mean, Kevin Stefanski comes in year one, wins head coach of the year, goes to the playoffs, gets a playoff win, almost gets a divisional win against the Chiefs. Probably should have if the refs didn't do a couple of shady things, whatever. And you kind of feel that momentum shift. And now this season is the first time where every game, for the most part, they've all been close. I mean, except for a few blowouts here and there, but all these close games, the Browns are finding ways to win, not lose.
Yeah.
And we were talking before the show, and I'll just kind of kick you off for this. You were talking about the consistency throughout the organization being a key contributor to why things are changing for the Browns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at top organizations just in sports in general, you think of course, the Patriots.
Ugly colors.
You think of, yeah. Yeah. So you think of the Patriots. You think of the San Antonio Spurs in basketball, even the Miami Heat in basketball. If there's anybody watching this that's in racing, you think of my favorite drivers, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, part of the Rick Hendrick crew. You think of, in football wise, you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They only had 3 head coaches the whole entire tenure. Meanwhile, Cleveland has 3 head coaches in 6 years.
Right.
So now you have Kevin Stefanski, who's showing that, okay, this year, more than anything, just like in 2020, I can thrive in chaos. Some people just thrive in chaos. They love it, and it brings the best out of them. You then look at Adam Berry, what he's done.
Andrew Berry.
Granted, Andrew Berry, my apologies.
You're good.
Andrew Berry, what he's done, where he's had some misses. We'll be frank there. He's had some misses, but it's still a steady. You know that he's not going to be replaced by the end of the year. You know he's not going to go anywhere. Paul DePodesta, although nobody really sees the guy, we don't know what he does or where his office is in that building. He's there. And I think more than anything, Jimmy Haslam isn't in the way this year.
Yeah.
I even heard reports, back in 2020 where it was just strictly football. In the chaos of 2020, with everything going on with the pandemic, it was strictly football. Where all you had to do, you couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go out, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. You strictly focused on football. So you've seen some teams excel, other teams diminish. Cleveland was one of those that started to excel. Then you have just a stability of players. You have Myles Garrett, who is the end-all, be-all. You have Nick Chubb. Yeah, well, so Nick, you have Nick Chubb. You then go get Amari Cooper to pair with this team,
for
and
nothing.
you just build around that, right? For literally nothing. I mean, and I went back and actually looked at it. When Philly played Oakland in 2017, he was on the team. Dallas got him for nothing. It was more so of a salary dump. They knew they weren't going to do anything. Same thing happened with us getting him from Dallas. It was going to be contract time. So building that camaraderie, building the team, building a solid foundation of players led to where we are now.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I love that breakdown. Let's kind of shift to the main topic then for this episode and talk about that Super Bowl run for the Eagles, the amazing performances by Nick Foles and what he was able to do stepping in late in the season. Now, there are obviously differences. Nick Foles, correct me if I'm wrong, he was with the team all year. He was their backup. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And whereas Joe Flacco had nothing to do with the Browns until we absolutely needed him to start. I mean, he was here for one game when DTR played, and I don't think Joe was even activated in that.
Nope.
Went back to the practice squad the next week. He started in LA, and it's just kind of been him ever since, and he's been on fire. The numbers are different and everything, but I just want to look at what these guys were able to do. And to kind of go back to what you were talking about before with the winning teams and how you kind of became an Eagles fan in the first place, man, whenever you're a Browns fan for all those years, you root for the Browns for whatever, then it was 16 games. As soon as the postseason starts, you had to have a different team to root for because the Browns were never in it. And I found myself rooting for the Eagles on many of those occasions. I really liked Donovan McNabb whenever he was playing for the Eagles. I thought he was awesome. Andy Reid was such a great coach. They were fun to watch. So naturally, as a kid, you gravitate towards the teams, one, that are always in the postseason, so you know you can count on them being there, and two, that are just fun to watch. They have fun players to root for, guys that you like to jump on Madden and play with and things like that. So I did definitely root for the Eagles. I remember that when McNabb was down there, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Those were good times.
Yeah.
And then that run in that 2017-2018 season was pretty fun. So,
man.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you just tell me what you remember about that as an Eagles fan and how it feels watching Joe Flacco, what he's doing now?
That one sticks out to me. Besides just the ending result, is the ability to just adapt. And also just because I was in the military, I was deployed at that time. So those first deployments always stick out with you. But I remember watching the game that Carson Wentz got hurt. I believe it was the second quarter. He went scrambled out to the right, and he kind of got sandwiched in between two players and tore his ACL. It didn't look like anything because he got up and walked off with his own power. I was like, okay, maybe it's just a knee sprain. He'll be back. Honestly, we're good. We can rest him till the end of the year, and he'll kick it in for the playoffs. And funny enough, whenever somebody gets injured, Carson Wentz is now the butt of the joke. Oh yeah, if he gets injured or he gets paid MVP race, then he comes back and now he's just a shell of himself. That's what happens. But just that team, Alshon Jeffries, Jay Ajayi, who we traded for on deadline day.
That's right.
Was such a big bonus. Because we really didn't have any burners. I mean, LeGarrette Blount ran 4.6. Corey Clement ran a 4.6. Keyshawn Bonner ran a 4.5, and Ajayi ran a 4.5. But he was just another solidifying piece to that team, and just how they adapted to it. I can't remember how the Rams game went, but I know that next game I was kind of nervous because it was Nick Foles starting again, and he hadn't started really. And I want to say he was actually similar to Joe Flacco because he left Philadelphia before. Because he was there for the Chip Kelly era, which is equivalent to the Freddie Kitchens era in Cleveland. So we don't talk about it. He left, went to follow Andy Reid to Kansas City. And then from there, I believe they just switched to Los Angeles Rams. And then he went back to Philly. So having him there was almost like, okay, somebody who knows the city, knows the culture, knows the fans. Okay, good. But what can he do for the game, for the team? Because it was a whole new slew of players that was in from the last time he was there. And he did exactly what Joe Flacco did. Just boom, stepped in right away. Easy, passes up and down the field. If I remember correctly, 237 and 4 touchdowns. One interception, I believe.
No, in that first game,
no sacks.
No picks.
Oh, no, you're right. No. Yeah, no interceptions, 1 sack. But you saw just how we've seen with Joe Flacco, coolness, stillness, calm. He's one of those guys that's calm. And one thing I noticed, I can't remember his height, but he's a tall quarterback.
He's a big guy. Yeah, he's probably 6'5", 6'6".
He's a tall quarterback. More mobile than Joe Flacco. But he was mobile enough to do what needed to be done.
You want to hear something funny quick? I got their numbers pulled up here. So they're both 6'6". Nick Foles 243, Joe Flacco 245. So essentially, body wise, the same. But you say about the mobile now. The thing with mobility with a quarterback, it's not always about the speed. It's about how you can use how you can move. Because Nick Foles actually has a 5.14 40. Joe Flacco's in the 4.84. So he's faster. Based on straight line speed or whatever, but yeah, because I've heard people say, like we've seen it with wide receivers, you can have straightaway speed on the 40-yard dash, John Ross. Yep.
But then when you get into the game, you don't know how to utilize that speed. Not everybody's like a Tyreek Hill who can just burn you when he gets the ball in his hand. So, wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I didn't know that until I was just now looking at the numbers. I'm like, these guys are so similar in size. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I remember just the consistency he had, and even at that point in time, it was the consistency with the front office and with the head coach as well. Because Philly just came off the Chip Kelly era, which was after the Andy Reid era. So you're looking at Andy go to Kansas City and take Alex Smith, who was a pedestrian quarterback before he got a hold of him, take it to the AFC championship game. Then you see him what he does with Patrick Mahomes. We don't even have to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
But you then flow it to Chip Kelly. Not going to talk about that. And then you flow it to Doug Peterson. And Doug was very calm, much like Kevin Stefanski. I will say Doug showed more emotion a little bit than Kevin, but he was very calm, very poised. Wasn't one to really get rattled. It was a few times where it's just like Kevin questioned the play calling of what was done, but overall, very similar.
Yeah, we questioned play calling on and off too throughout Kevin's tenure. This year has been very eye-opening for us, just the host of the show, because we're taking a much deeper look at the way things are unfolding on the field. And a lot of, times when Kevin's play calls are getting questioned, if you look at the plays and how they develop from different angles, they're there. They're there. The execution has fallen short in a lot of those situations. The most recent was just, it was that play on Thursday night against the Jets. It was 4th down. We're in our own territory right after that muff punt. And it was like, okay, cool, we can at least get 3 points here. Our backup, just signed a new kicker. He had already missed an extra point. Kevin elected to go for it. It's like, well, okay, I guess we can give this a shot. Flacco runs the 4th down play to perfection, throws the ball exactly where it needed to be. It was a guaranteed touchdown, except Cedric Tillman didn't run his route. Just completely broke it off. And Flacco was livid after that play.
I was livid.
He was yelling, and rightfully so. You run a touchdown play, and that's just the thing. So it's a lot of the execution not being there with these plays, but Kevin Stefanski's play calling for the most part, I think, has been spot on. I think he's done a great job with this team, and all the credit, I should say the credit first and foremost for what the team is doing right now on the field goes to Kevin Stefanski.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, I hope you guys all had a great Christmas, a happy new year, everybody stayed safe, and most importantly, well fed. Start the new year off with a bang of big savings during the Omaha Steaks end of season event. That's right. This sales event, the 50% off site wide, is still going on as we head into the new year 2024. That's 50% off incredible steaks. Sink your teeth into the memorable Butcher's Cut Top Sirloin. That's honestly my favorite. That's the one I got for all of my family members for Christmas, and I've got stocked up in my freezer right now to get ready for the year ahead. Just go to omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of the 50% off site-wide event still going on. And when you use our promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out, you get an extra $30 off your order. Let's fight the winter blues and celebrate the Browns playoff push with delicious and satisfying meals from Omaha Steaks. They've got the, perfectly aged, the tender, juicy steaks, burgers, decadent desserts, classic comfort meals. They're ready instantly. Seafood, brats, jumbo franks, everything. They've got so much to offer. Now for a limited time moving into the new year, they're going to extend the 50% off site-wide sale. Plus, like I said before, you get an extra $30 off when you use our code DAWGS, DAWGS at checkout. And every purchase is backed by Omaha Steaks' unconditional money-back guarantee. So let's go, Browns fans. We're in the playoffs. Let's continue to start the new year off the right way. Warm up your winter with tender steaks and hearty home-cooked favorites from Omaha Steaks. 50% off site-wide, promo code DAWGS when you check out. Get that extra $30 off your order. Happy New Year, guys, and let's enjoy this playoff run. Minimum purchase may apply. This episode is sponsored by Factor. Browns fans, get started on your New Year's resolutions with Factor, America's ready-to-eat meal delivery service that takes all the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success here in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, all the prep work, and the cooking fatigue. Instead, you can get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus they have over 55 weekly add-ons, you guys have a ton of nutritious and flavor-filled options to kickstart your resolutions. I've personally tried Factor's meals. They are incredible. I got a whole bunch of different varieties of things just to see what I liked, what I didn't, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. I liked them all. You throw it in the microwave, 2 minutes, and bam, you have a nutritious meal ready to go on the fly. And the nice thing is when things get hectic, Factor is totally flexible. You can change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week. You can even pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime you want. So here we go, guys. Let's stress less over our meal times in the new year. Let's get Factor's no prep, no mess meals, no shopping, no cooking, no cleanup. Head to factormeals.com/thedogs50. That's all one word, thedogs50. Use code thedogs50 to get 50% off your order. That's code thedogs50 at factormeals.com/thedogs50 to get 50% off. Happy New Year, everyone. So if we look at, you were talking about Nick Foles. I mean, that first game, you said 237, 4 touchdowns, no picks, just dicing them up. And, you look at Joe Flacco's first game against the Rams. He comes in 254, 2 touchdowns, the very costly interception, which, I do see a lot of Browns fans kind of excusing. And at the time, I know a lot of people were very upset. It was a first down play. We had a chance to go down. We were only down by 1. Had a chance to go down, take the lead, and he throws the pick right away on the first play, and that was pretty much game over from there. So that was disappointing. And what was the outcome of those games for Nick Foles and the Eagles once he took over?
He won in New York because they won 34-29, and it was actually a close game. Because I went back just to go watch it and remember it all. Very close. I mean, Philly had actually let New York score on a first drive touchdown, which they hadn't done all year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
New York, that was their one Achilles heel. They could not score on the first drive, which if you can't do that on the first drive, your defense gives up the score, then you're now playing from behind. You're trying to keep pace. So that was part of the reason why they finished, I think it was 2-13 that year. They may have gotten another win at the end of the year. I'm not sure. But then the Raiders, that was a 19-10 game. Very sloppy. That, to me, was a very sloppy game. It was almost like how Seattle was and how Indy was. It was like, okay, when are we going to get that big play? When are we going to, do that? Luckily, Philly hung on for the win. By that time, it was already known you're going to rest, like kind of how Cleveland is this week, rest your starters. In that last game against Dallas, I want to say that was Dak's second year, I believe. But that was a 6-0 game. That was a baseball score. Wow. So, yeah, and surprisingly, I mean, Nick only played a drive after he threw an interception. He was out. But Nate Suffield came in. It was 19 of 23 for 134, but no touchdowns, no interception. So it wasn't anything there. But yeah, 2-1 in those last 3.
Okay. And then if I'm reading this correctly, like you said, they knew they were going to rest guys that final week of the season. They got the bye week, right? They didn't have to play wild card weekend.
Yep, so number 1 seed, which I hope Cleveland gets somehow, somewhere.
Yeah. So then divisional round, play Atlanta. Looks like he was 246, but no touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah. Atlanta that was the most scared I was for a team, because I can't remember, you can probably look this up quicker than I can. Was that before or after the 28-3?
Ooh. When
Atlanta went to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll look it up real quick.
Because I still remember that was prime Matt Ryan, Devonta Freeman.
That would be after. That was after.
Okay.
The year after, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that was still prime. Julio Jones, still the prime Atlanta Falcons team. That one, I remember I was sitting on the edge of my couch, just nervous, because it's like, it was such a close game. It ended up being 10-15. I remember 4th down. It was a back corner fade, right pylon to Julio. Debatable about some DPI. Very debatable. I was shocked they didn't call it, but they did it. We get out of there with a win. And he was 246, and it was a very close game.
Close game, and then I don't have the outcomes in front of me. You'll have to speak to that. But then conference championship, Super Bowl. Looks like Nick Foles, I mean, he had kind of been catching some fire before that, up and down a little bit. But again, it was the end of the season. the Eagles are kind of wrapping things up, knowing they're going to rest guys. It wasn't as big of a push as the Browns have had to make with Joe Flacco, knowing how tight the AFC race has been. But then, I mean, after that divisional round, it's 352, 373, 6 touchdowns and a pick over those last 2 games. I mean, Nick Foles just caught it, and man, was he good.
That conference game against Minnesota, that's when they had Case Keenum. That's when they kind of shocked everybody. And I believe that's also the same year they started the skull clap. I mean, they may have did it years prior, but that's when it finally got recognition for doing the skull clap, which honestly is one of the coolest things in sports.
That is pretty cool. Did you see Kirk Cousins doing it?
Kirk Cousins, yeah. It's like, I would, even just as a player, I would love to, have gone through that. Just to sit there on the sidelines and go, okay, this is cool. It's like whiteout in Penn State. There's certain things you just want to see.
It's kind of like the guitar smash now in Cleveland.
It
is awesome.
Awesome. That game was a rout. I remember Minnesota went down, scored first. Then Philly went out, did a 3-and-out, and on the next drive, I want to say in a few drives after, Philly had a pick 6. Took it. Robinson scored the touchdown. Took it, scored it, and like right there, it just felt like that momentum shift. And the defense really fed off the crowd, similar to how Cleveland feeds off the crowd at home. You could just feel it bubbling up, and then it was just a rout all game. Case Keenum, deer in headlights, seeing ghosts, however you want to describe it. It was purely domination. It was 24-7 at half. Our rookie at that time, Barnett, had a strip sack in the second quarter that helped give them even a short field. No, they were trying to score, and they strip sacked him before the second quarter ended. So just being able to dominate that game, but then of course, Super Bowl, I always chalk up the Super Bowl to just, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, we've seen David Tyree, we've seen 28-3. So for Cleveland to kind of be catching that same momentum, you never know what's going to happen. It's amazing to see. And for the Philly game, from the Philly aspect of it, I had just got done with my deployment, and I was actually heading home, and I had to travel through Minneapolis. They had the banners up because that's when the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis. And no team up to that point had hosted the Super Bowl in their own city that they played in.
Right.
So I was, walking through the sides, and I saw Philly and New England on the banners in the airport. I'm like, yep, I might just stay here for a whole week. I got enough money. Stay here for a whole week. Get into the game. But it was honestly a cool experience to get home, watch it with my mom. Like I said, we kind of had that thing growing up when me and her were watching Super Bowl together. We still do it now. It could be the playoffs, Super Bowl, anything. I actually have a funny cap story I'll tell you after this about when they won the championship. It was so awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, that game, I learned, because my mother was a Patriots fan, to never count out Tom Brady until the clock says 0. So, and like you said, that was just after we watched him do 28-3.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, no, I'm not counting him out until I know that it's over. So that was a highly contested game. I mean, it was pure offense, high scoring, 41-33. And even the last play, I'm like, when Gronk almost had it in the end zone, like, bat it down, don't let him catch it, And I was sitting in my mom's house and we were watching it, and it was just an amazing thing to see. I'm glad I was able to witness it. To see him, finally won a Super Bowl after so many tries, and I can see that same thing happening with Cleveland. Granted, the AFC is very tough, but Cleveland has the best defense. Cleveland statistically has a better defense than Philly did when Philly won the Super Bowl.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I mean, Cleveland, we know the stats for Cleveland. They're number one in most categories. The main component, the number one key factor between those two defenses, is a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. I mean, and whoever's watching this, go back and look at the 2017 rush line for the Philadelphia Eagles and then go watch the 2023 rush for the Cleveland Browns. Very similar how they get to the quarterback. Pressure with just 4. They'll send an extra guy or 2, but the 4 was very good. Fletcher Cox reminds me of Tomlinson in the middle before he got hurt. We didn't have nobody comparable to Myles Garrett. I mean, that's once in a generation type of guy. But Juan Thornhill is this team's Malcolm Jenkins, because Philly had got Malcolm from New Orleans, and he fit in right away. He was a leader, consummate pro. Did a lot of tackles similar to Thornhill when needed. So he's the one that I look at. So okay, I could look at those two teams and say that's that guy, that's that leader that has a championship pedigree because he did it in New Orleans before he came to Philly, and then he leads them defense to the Super Bowl. So I'm very happy to see the similarities between the two. But by far, the Cleveland defense this year is better than the Philly defense in 2017. By far.
Yeah. Well, and if you look on the other side of the ball, I would imagine the Philly offense, even though they had their backup quarterback, was a lot better than what the Browns offense is, because you have already named, the skill position studs and everything that Philly had, where Cleveland's working with backups across the board for the most part. Yeah. And yes, Amari Cooper is an absolute stud wide receiver, but after him, it gets pretty hairy, pretty thin, pretty quick. Elijah Moore is decent, but it's hard to rely on him and him alone. And then, David Njoku is elite. He is coming into, people will know his name across the league and fear what he can do with the ball. But the offensive line is beat up, banged up. They're backups. It's, we're on our 4th quarterback. He wasn't with the team, like we said. Nick Foles, obviously the backup all year. There's just a lot of, there's similarities and differences, but there's just so much you can connect between that Philadelphia Eagles team and this Cleveland Browns team. Like you said, Jim Schwartz, the backup quarterback situation, coming in for the injured starter, catching fire, doing all these things. It's just, and I've just heard so many people say, well, you remember Nick Foles with the Eagles, this is kind of like that. And it just had me thinking, let's talk about that. Let's look at those two teams.
And even the running game for Philly. Granted, Philly had the better running backs than what Cleveland does now. But it wasn't how can I put this? They're very similar. If you were to just look at the stats, 27 carries, 40 yards. Okay, that's nothing. We look at, Jerome Ford. Granted, if we take out the Jets game, he's been pedestrian. People were calling for Pierre Strong to get in there because when Pierre got in there, it looked like he could hit the holes better. He was seeing the vision better, and he had that speed. One thing I think helped Ford was somebody must have told him, hey, just play football.
Yeah.
People may not even know this. He did go to Alabama for, I think, 2 years. And he did sit there. So, granted, Alabama half the NFL was Alabama. So, Alabama or SEC. So, you go there, then you go to Cincinnati, you do good there. He was very good at Cincinnati. He was part of that turnaround there for a little bit.
I was so excited when we drafted him.
Yeah. So he has the breakaway speed. He's the fastest. Between the two teams, he's the fastest guy. But even then, it wasn't a home run hitter on Philadelphia. It was more of the bruisers with Philadelphia. I would honestly compare it to a little bit of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, where granted, Nick Chubb can break one and take it 75. But he has no problem lowering his shoulder and getting 4 every single time. Same with Kareem Hunt. He, maybe not now, but 2-3 years ago, he could take it 50. Now he has no problem getting 4 or 5. And that's what Philly had. They had a 4 tandem, LeGarrette Blount, Keyshawn Barner, Corey Clement, and Jay Ajayi. And it was just a rotation. And it would just punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth. And it will wear teams down in the 4th quarter. That's half the NFC Championship game. they only scored one more point after the half because they didn't need to. Honestly, the defense wrapped it up, and then the offense run game sealed it. So it's a lot of similarities there. I mean, Alshon Jeffries to Amari Cooper, quiet, doesn't say much, runs the right routes, touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember
Cedric Tillman. Yeah, Cedric Tillman. I don't want to say his name because I know how he played out. He's the so-so guy, but Nelson Aguilar, he had the body, he had the speed. Cedric Tillman doesn't necessarily have that speed, he more so has the body. He's a big body, but it was always the miscues with him. With Nelson Aguilar, dropping the ball. I don't think he had an issue with the routes. I think he was mainly dropping the ball. But I think Cedric, his is a lot of just the route execution, and he hasn't played much. And he could be just out there trying to prove his point, which, hey, by all means, go ahead and do it. But sometimes, like on the 4th down conversion, you got to be right there. But he's also a rookie.
Like you said, rookie, and he hasn't played much.
Who hasn't played much.
The lack of experience, on-field experience in our wide receiving core right now, that concerns me. It definitely does.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, granted, we got Cooper, got Elijah Moore, and I hope he gets fully recovered. I heard he's doing better, and he might be a go for the playoff game. But I also think that with this experience, next year we'll see a better exposure. I know we're not talking about that right now, but and nothing counts more than in-game reps. The more you do it, the more you get used to the speed. Some people could come in and just light up, like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, all those guys. Some people take some time to get to where they need to be.
Devontae Adams took 3 seasons. He was considered a bust.
Nobody remembers, and that's the thing. Nobody remembers that about Devontae Adams, where he wasn't consistently catching a ball. Mm-hmm. He was a good route runner, but he wasn't consistently catching a ball. And now you look at dude, he has his own Taco Bell commercials inside his own house.
Yep.
And he's granted one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the game right now. So, it may take Doms a while. The one issue I see with Cleveland, and it's similar to Philadelphia, is the development of a wide receiver. Most of the times, Philly has to go get that guy. Like right now, you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Granted, Devontae came in and it's been that guy, but A.J. had to go get him from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Cleveland had to go get Amari Cooper from Dallas.
Elijah Moore from New York.
Elijah Moore from New York. Before then, Jarvis Landry from Miami, Odell from New York.
Very true. Yep.
So it hasn't been a homegrown guy, but I think Tillman could be that. I think Tillman could be similar to an Amari Cooper. He's not going to give you great speed. He has some speed, but if you could get somebody that's a route technician, that to me will win more so than speed any day.
Yeah.
So
the way Tillman can catch, he's got very good hands. We've seen him. There was one play, and I forget which game it was, but it was in the last couple of games where he caught a pass with his hands out in front of him and went down, tackled, and never lost control of the ball. And it was like, man, this kid has a man's hands. And
when you could catch it out here like this and
pluck it from the air,
defender's trying to rip it.
Yep.
And they can't. Those strong hands. But yeah, it's a lot of similarities between this team and the 2017 Eagles. The number one difference that Cleveland doesn't have, and it's kind of working good for them now, is they shed the story of the underdog a little bit. It's still there, because it's Cleveland. Come on now. You're the little brother that we used to punk on the street. It's Cleveland. It's not anybody physical compared to Philly, where, of course, Jason Kelce gives the amazing speech at the Super Bowl parade, but it's the underdog. Who nobody doesn't like the story of the underdog. Everybody likes the underdog story. Everybody likes the guy who was last on the bench and is now the starter.
That's true.
So everybody likes that.
Yeah, they weren't picking Nick Foles to outduel Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
No, I wasn't picking Nick Foles to outdo Tom Brady. I watched Tom Brady literally. Nobody was picking Tom Brady to outduel, I believe it was the Rams in his first Super Bowl, and then the Panthers. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
Nobody was picking Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady's the biggest underdog if you want to go draft picks and numbers and everything else. But then you have team underdogs. Like nobody was picking some people were picking the Lions, but it was more so, can they do it again?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think Cleveland is. Next year, can they do it again? We saw Detroit do it last year where you had the pieces, and if a couple things were their way in the last game, they're in the playoffs. So now you have Cleveland catching fire. You want to catch fire at the right time.
Yeah.
At the right time. So, meanwhile, Philadelphia Eagles this year I don't even want to talk about it right now. So, but it's just, this is the shift. If I could say anything to the Cleveland Browns fans watching this, or just football fans, period, if your team is just horrible, pay attention to what they do in the front office, because it always starts with the front office first. It'll be your GM, your owner, assistant GM, whoever you want to name. It'll be consistency there first. You'll have your pieces. You'll have your players. Then you get the team. I think now with what Cleveland's doing, it is amazing to watch. I think that for the next 3-4 weeks, they'll be the talk of the NFL. As tight as the AFC is, they've already locked in their spot.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Cleveland has never won 12 games in a season, right?
I don't know about never. I'd have to go look at the history. Maybe the 80s. It hasn't been any times recently.
Yeah. As long as they've been back since '99, I know they have it. But just even the thought of Cleveland saying the Cleveland Browns have 12 wins. If you would have told everybody here on the panel, hey, this is going to be Cleveland Browns. They have a shot, and there's more so locked up now, but they had a shot at the number 1 seed in the AFC. You have Deshaun Watson, who gets hurt, comes back, gets hurt again. Then you have a rookie backup, DTR. He gets thrown into the game against Baltimore. Okay, you're more than likely going to lose that one. You lose Nick Chubb in a horrible injury in week 2. Okay, yeah, we're probably going to be 7 wins. 7 wins. Nope. Cleveland has 11 wins, seeded in the 5th seed. And honestly, nobody wants to see Cleveland right now.
No,
nobody wants to see Cleveland.
If they say
nobody,
they're straight up lying.
Yeah, and it's the old adage. It's Cleveland. It's not like it's Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
As much as I don't like the Chiefs, it's kind of like a Tom Brady thing. Until I know this man is out the playoffs, I'm not betting against him. And I already know what Andy Reid could do as a coach.
100%.
And experience is experience. Same with Jim Harbaugh. Divisional foes, yes, but Baltimore looks a little bit different this year. And it's Miami could take Miami. Buffalo could take Buffalo. Mm-hmm. It's going to be crazy to see how this shakes out.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The only team in the AFC that, I think would be a very, very close match. I mean, if we played our brand of football, it would be Baltimore. We've shown we can beat them too. We've shown we can beat anybody. But I would say, and I know we're kind of running up against the clock here a little bit, but just to kind of wrap it up with like the 3 keys ahead of the playoffs that I'm looking at, and then you can let me know if you agree with this, disagree, if you got something to add, would be, first off, we need to find something in the run game. We need to, and I'm not saying it has to be a lot, but it just needs to be better than 1.7 or 2.2 a carry, whatever it has been.
Yeah.
Key number 2, our defense needs to travel. If they can travel the way they did to Houston and the Texans game, we're going to be right there ready to win any game on the road, because if the defense from Denver or LA shows up, we're screwed. But that defense that traveled to Houston, that's the one we need. And the main key for me is Joe Flacco's got to quit turning the ball over. and I should say the offense in general, because we have fumbles from the running backs, fumbles from David Njoku, untimely fumble, receivers dropping ball, and interceptions. Though if we can cut down those things, which we lead the league in turnovers, I don't see us eliminating them, but they need cut down, and they need to happen on the other side of the field. We cannot be turning the ball over, giving the opponent short field against our defense, handing them 6 points on fumbles and interceptions. That stuff can't happen once the playoffs start. You have anything else to look for as the playoffs come soon?
Intensity. Intensity. So that defensive intensity that you saw in Houston, that is in Cleveland, like you said, it needs to travel. Turnovers, I would say, because it's Joe Flacco. We've seen him with the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to give you at least one. I don't know why all the quarterbacks say, hey, be a Cleveland Brown quarterback. Love the city. Quota number one. Number two, throw at least one interception a game. I don't know if it's in their contracts. I don't know if they have it. I don't know. But I would also, just to piggyback on that, costly turnovers. If you're taking, I've never cared for taking a deep shot at the end of a half. If you just throwing it to the end zone, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, those interceptions are, can't really count them.
If it's similar to the Tillman interception with Chicago, where he catches it and he just get hit and the ball pops up, you can't control that. That is, to me, those should never be on a quarterback. Those should be, a wide receiver cause interception. I don't know, some statistic they can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
But just the interceptions where we've seen with Deshaun, where it's a bad read, and it's like, what were you seeing?
Mm-hmm.
But granted, when we look at a game, we can't see past the middle linebackers, and if they drop back deep enough, we can't even see them. So just those costly interceptions.
Right. Joe had one there against the Jets where he threw it to Njoku, and Mosley, the linebacker for the Jets, was almost an inch away from a pick.
Literally, just get him right over the top. It's like, and granted, with that, it's like, okay, you were feeling it, but don't do that again.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to get lucky every time.
Yeah, you do that against Baltimore or Buffalo or whoever. That's a pick, and probably will be a pick six.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the interceptions at the costly times. Now, if it's 24-21 and you're pushing down the field and your defense has kind of had momentum all game and you're trying to go for a score and you just chuck one up like you did in Houston, I believe it was just that interception where it was going to, I think, Amari, and it gets intercepted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can live with that. You're trying to be aggressive. You're trying to put the game away. But if it's a third down, third quarter, you don't have that momentum. They stole it from you, and they drop back, and they blitz you, and you miss a block. You rush it. You throw to the wrong guy. That can't happen. No. Stuff like that can't happen. I honestly believe Joe knows that. And to me, it's almost of a, let me see what I can still do here with these guys. Let me see where I can go put it for them. Like the pass to Ford. That pass with any other quarterback on the team is not being done. Deshaun's probably running it. PJ's probably running it. DTR's probably running it. Joe wanted to run it,
but he couldn't.
But when he looked back, when he could have used that 4.8 speed.
That's right.
When he looked back to see if he was going to get stripped, he saw Ford and dumped it off to him, but then Ford used his speed to go take it to the house, and intensity in the running game. The intensity that we saw with Ford on Thursday night, I don't like to compare them because nobody can do it like that, but that run on that touchdown, that speed was there, but then the ability to break that tackle. How many times have we seen Nick Chubb break a tackle like that?
That was that determination of I'm scoring.
Determination of I'm scoring, and you are not me, you one-on-one Oklahoma drill right now. Let's go. Right. So that's what I would love to see is the intensity in the running game. David Njoku. If I can make one more comparison to the 2017 Eagles, Zach Ertz was coming along after Brett Selleck. And so after Brett Selleck, it was Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz was the first one that I really remember of the Eagles tight ends to really have that speed, that size, the ability to catch the ball. It seems like no matter when you throw it to him, he catches it. And he had deceptive speed now. And that's the same thing with Njoku. Njoku is a monster of a man at tight end. He's deceptive speed. I don't think the Jets thought he was that fast once he got the ball in his hands, because he just glides.
He does.
Some players just glide. So David Njoku, I think now we forget he was 19 when he entered the league. He's now 26. He's hitting his peak. I believe he's 26, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he's hitting his peak physically. So now he's understanding that game, and he's starting to love Cleveland. So love being on the Browns. So when he does fix a lot of things, I think honestly in the playoffs we're going to see a more ramped up Joe Flacco. The running game, like you said, I hope it's there. Because even Philly, like I mentioned, they didn't really have that good of a game. I mean, I got the stats here. Over the last 3 games, 4.3 a carry, 3.7 a carry, and 3.8 a carry for Philly, and in the season. So going into the season, let me check here. They were at 4.3 a carry in the Falcons, 3.8. Hold on, nope. Let me back up here. Let me see. Oh, yeah. 3.6 against the Vikings. So it's not they didn't have a true number one. Similar, that's what I'm getting. They didn't have that true number one. They had Blunt, who was the number one, and Ajayi, who, depending on who you play, could be a number one. But it's not like us with Nick Chubb.
Right.
Where it's flat out number one. I think Kareem Hunt, flat out number 2. This is a running back by committee kind of thing that I think Cleveland has to do. And ultimately, I think it'll pay off in the end for Cleveland. Granted, this the joke out there, if anybody's seen it, because I'll put it in the Discord, the NFL kind of put it out there, the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Championship game. So we'll see if that happens. But honestly, I'm just excited for the city of Cleveland. When the Cavs do good, the city is great. When the Browns do good, the city is great. But when the Browns do good, the city is amazing. Cleveland's a football town. They're a football city.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited for the way this season is ending, wrapping up, and the postseason is beginning. It's always nice to have that second season. We don't get that a whole lot in Cleveland, like I said, which is why, the Philadelphia Eagles were always a fun team to root for when we were younger, because they were always in that second season. So I really appreciate you, Devonta. I appreciate you coming on to the episode today and talking about all this stuff. Like, your football knowledge and insight is awesome. It's fire. You bring some good stuff, and really looking forward to collabing with you in the future and having you on some more episodes in the off season. So people, if you enjoyed listening to Devonta today, come back in the off season. There's going to be more. We're going to do some more stuff with him and pick his brain about a lot of stuff, draft and free agents and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, it's an honor to just be part of the Discord. Like I put in there, you guys have made football fun for me this year. With watching the Browns, when something bad happens, we're all like, oh my God, why did you do that? But there was something good happens, we're like jumping for joy. So no matter what, this is, when you look back at the 2023 Cleveland Browns, you're going to say, all right, this was a team that turned everything around, similar to what we see in Buffalo, similar to what we're seeing, and even, you could say Miami, you could say Baltimore, you could say all these other teams that have had that year and then turn it around better. So that's what I'm expecting for the Cleveland Browns this year, man. Let's go, Browns. Dog check.
Oh, dog check. Woof, woof. Let's go. Appreciate everybody tuning in this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all that. Apple, Spotify, if you're listening, make sure you guys are following the show. We appreciate everybody who supports it. And we will be with you guys later this week previewing the final game of the season, the Bengals in Cincinnati, and then we'll be back on Monday talking about that game and giving our first playoff preview of this postseason. So until we talk to you guys again, let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.